Call to order the City of Portage Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, September 7th, 2022. If you would stand and say the pledge.
of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Monroe, could you call roll?
Tom Cherry. Here. Gina Geishurst.
Here.
Sam LeBoy.
Here.
Charles Mayer. Hortensia Moreno. Charles Thompson.
Here.
Melissa Weidenbach.
Here.
Kevin Witherspoon. Here. Denise Little.
Here. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at the minutes? And if there are no corrections or additions, may I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any reports from officers or committees?
Yes. A couple things. The first is, I believe I mentioned it previously, but this is Mr. Kurt Knutsen's last Plan Commission meeting. He's retiring at the end of the month, so it's kind of a sad day. Not a sad day for Kurt, probably. I knew I'd get a chuckle, at least one. Thank you for that. We're going to have a small retirement celebration for Kurt toward the end of the month, and we'll be sending out an email to everybody to let you know when that's going to be. So Kurt, thank you for all your years of service to the city of Portage. You're going to be missed. Did you want to say anything? Okay. The second thing I'd like to do this evening is introduce Dina Dawkins. Dina, for years, has, first came on to the city, in 1998 as a planning clerk, and she's been instrumental to the planning department over the years, and through a series of moves and reorganizations of the building and planning departments and so on and so forth. We kind of lost track of Dina out of the planning department, and I think everybody thinks she works for the building department, but that's really that's where she sits. Dina has been a great employee to the city. Dina applied for Kurt's position. What a perfect fit, we thought, to bring her on to replace Kurt. So Dina here over the course of the next couple weeks will be working with Kurt, kind of understanding the lay of the land and all the work that he's done over the years. And Dina will be starting in the position as Development Review Planner at the beginning of October. So I'd also like to welcome and congratulate Dina on coming on into the department, or back, maybe. The last thing I'd like to announce this evening, we are going to be hosting a downtown planning charrette for the update of the downtown master plan next week. There are a series of open meetings and community meetings that will be held Tuesday, September 13th through Thursday, September 15th. I believe there's information available on the city's website. I know a number of you are serving on the steering committee, have received those invitations. Those in attendance this evening, I'd like to invite you to join during that planning charrette. There's some information here. We will have an open studio Tuesday, September 13th from 1 to 6, and 2 sessions of open studio on Wednesday, September 14th, 9 to 11 a.m. and 1 to 6:30 p.m. And there will also be 2 community meetings during the planning charrette. The first will be Tuesday, September 13th at 6:30. The second will be Thursday, September 15th at 6:30. All the meetings will be held here at City Hall. So I encourage all of you here in attendance to participate. Many here at the dais will also be participating, and for those watching tonight's meeting, please join. If you have any other questions, please check out the city's website. That's the conclusion of my report, unless you may have questions.
No questions? Could you call our first public hearing?
This is M0522, Reverend Chet J. Johnson Sr., 3728 Windy Beach Street, Portage, Indiana, seeking to place a fence in the second front yard of his corner lot at 3728 Windy Beach Street in the Sterling Creek Park Estates Subdivision Phase 1 within the Sterling Creek Park Plan Development.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Do you have, Kurt, is there a paper for them to sign?
He doesn't really need to sign, but there's a sign-in sheet for Monster.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead and state your name and give us your presentation.
Okay, my name is Chet J. Johnson Sr. I reside at 3728 Windy Beach Street in the Sterling Creek subdivision, and I'm petitioning this board to be allowed to extend my fence where I've contracted with a fencing company to allow me to extend it 8 feet into the secondary yard, which is parallel to the Little Falls Avenue, which is the intersecting street of Windy Beach.
Does that complete your presentation?
That's pretty much it.
Okay.
It's pretty cut and dry, I think.
Before I open the public hearing, if there is anybody here that does not feel comfortable talking in front of the public, you can submit a letter, and we will put that into the record. Once I open the public hearing, we ask that you only speak once, and if you have any questions, we take really good notes, and we'll have all the answers for you. I now open the public hearing. Is there anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner? If not, I close the public hearing and open for questions from the commission.
Can you explain why you want to extend?
Well, one of the primary reasons is on the south side of the property, which is the area that parallels Little Falls. That's where all my utility services are, as well as the discharge of the fireplace. And I would like to have those fenced in and not necessarily exposed to the travel. I also have a backup generator near that area. So having that area fenced in is one of the reasons why.
No. No questions? If no questions, may I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve?
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Mr. Monroe, could you call roll?
Tom Cherry,
Yes.
Gina Geishurst,
Yes.
Sam LeBoy,
Yes.
Charles Thompson,
Yes.
Melissa Weidenbach,
Yes.
Kevin Witherspoon, Denise Little.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. Let me thank the commission. And if I might, particularly since he's retiring, let me thank Mr. Knudsen for help guiding me through this process.
We are going to miss him. Mr. Monroe, could you call our second order of business?
Yes, Z0322, JLM Developers LLC, care of Laura B. Frost of Hodges and Davis, PC, 8700 Broadway, Maryville, Indiana, requesting a change of zoning from HC Highway Commercial to M1 Multifamily Residential for the 19 plus or minus acres south of Portage Avenue and west of Dunewood Trails subdivision, Phase 2.
Good evening.
Good evening. Give me a second. I think this worked before. Is that better? Okay, very good. Okay, give me one moment. Okay. Oh. Okay, thank you. All right. My name is Laura Frost. I'm an attorney with Hodges and Davis in Maryville, 8700 Broadway, Maryville, Indiana, 46410. And I'm here on behalf of JLM Developers LLC, which is the petitioner this evening. They're seeking to get a rezoning of approximately 19 acres that is located south of Portage Avenue, north of the Indiana Toll Road, and west of the Dunewood Trails subdivision. The property is currently zoned highway commercial, and they're asking for it to be rezoned to M1 designation. On this screen here is a proposed layout. They are proposing to change the zoning to the M1 designation for the purpose of construction of paired patio homes on the property. Currently, with the highway commercial district use, there's a number of commercial uses that would be permitted on the property, some of which are listed here. With the M1 designation, it would permit the residential use that they're seeking, including the two-family paired patio home dwelling that they're seeking to use. In terms of the criteria for consideration of the zoning amendment, there's 5 criteria specified in your ordinance. The first of which is the compatibility with the Portage Comprehensive Plan. And in this regard, the 2009 Comprehensive Plan does designate this property for medium-density residential use. So rezoning to the M1 district is consistent with what the Comprehensive Plan currently designates for this parcel. Another consideration is the current conditions and the character of the structures and uses in the district. This particular parcel is currently undeveloped and heavily wooded, but the property to the east of it is zoned for R2 residential use, and the property on the west side is commercial. So the rezoning would be a nice transition in the uses between the residential on the east side and the commercial uses on the west. A third consideration is the most desirable use for which the land in each district is adapted. Again, the comprehensive plan designates medium-density residential as the most desirable use for this property, and the M1 zoning classification is consistent with that designation. A fourth consideration is the conservation of property values in the jurisdiction. The M1 zoning would tend to preserve the property values, again, providing a buffer between the residential R2 uses on the east and the commercial uses to the west. And so the M1 zoning would be compatible with that. And finally, the last consideration is responsible development and growth. For the foregoing reasons, we believe that rezoning would be consistent and be consistent with responsible development and growth for the property, because again, it's consistent with what the comprehensive plan designates here. It's compatible with the surrounding property, and again, would create a balanced transition between the residential on the east and the more commercial on the west side of the parcel. So for this reason, we are requesting a favorable recommendation be made for rezoning of the property from highway commercial to the M1 zoning. Thank you.
And that completes your presentation.
Yes, and by the way, I should have mentioned, I also have John Hannon here at the table, who is a member of the JLM Development LLC, and also Larry Wright.
Welcome. I now open the public hearing. Is there anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner? If you'll go ahead and sign in.
Sure.
There's a specific sign-in sheet for this petition?
Let's see. Is it the one, oh no, not Mr. Johnson. I don't know who would show up trying to pose somebody just trying to get a fence. That's kind of cruel. Okay. My name is Austin Bonta. Good to see you guys again. For having left this board, I feel like I'm here quite a bit nowadays. I'm concerned about the possibility of this changing from highway commercial to M1 for a couple of reasons. I'd love to speak about the trees, but I understand private property, you can't quite affect that. So jump into something more related to what you guys are looking at as a plan commission. Right now, the city of Portage, as I understand it, is in a pretty rough financial situation. We've got, just watch a couple of past city council meetings and you'll see some of the issues that are stacking up. One of the big things, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, is that in Indiana, cities get more revenue from business property on average than they get from residential property. And in particular, the more people you get in a city, the more people you have to provide services for, be that police, be that fire. If these are paired patio homes, I think that would mean that they also get the trash pickup. All these things really take up resources of the city. Compared to a business property such as highway commercial as it currently is, where with a hotel, a restaurant, give it some time, you'd be able to really generate some revenue for the city. So in particular, I'm concerned about that, just the fact that, and also jumping from no residential, as it's currently commercial, to go into something so high density as M1, I could feel a little bit differently even if this was R1 or R2, which would actually match the neighborhood that you're going to be driving through in order to get here. But to me, this is just a very high density development being proposed in an area that could actually lead to some revenue creation with the right plan and the right business coming in. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody to speak against the petitioner?
I just have a question, not to speak for or against Michael Cooper. My question is related to, there's very little access between the exit kind of ramp off of Willow Creek Road there and the railroad tracks. And that, one of their main driveways, it looks like on the map, it was coming right out near that interchange. I don't know, if it's possible to maybe divert into the access ramp so you're not having two roads merging into Portage Avenue right there within 10 or 20 feet. I don't know what the actual dimensions are or how far two roads would have to be apart. AJ might be able to address that. But that's the only concern I had, is that road, because there's very little road access between Portage Avenue in that little section there.
Okay, thank you, and we'll get that answer for you. Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner? If not, I close the public hearing and open to questions from the commission. The very first question would be, what is the access going to be?
Well, there's 2 points of access right now, and forgive me, I'm going to have to blow this up because I have trouble reading that. But there's one access point on Portage Avenue, but the other access point is a continuation of Lakewood Avenue. So there's 2 points of access planned right now on this proposed development. I would also note that if there are concerns with roadway access, those are things that we would addressed more thoroughly at the time when we would be asking approval of the development plan, which is not now. This is just preliminary at this point.
For the audience, could you point on your map? Could you take your cursor and,
Okay, so this is the axis here on Portage Avenue, and then here's the other axis here on Lakewood, down here.
I have one question while everybody's looking at their information. The one thing that really concerns me is with an M1, your square footage could be 800 square feet for each side. What is your plan for sizes of these buildings?
I agree, because the map is not very detailed at all, and I was curious myself.
So again, I don't know that they have a final plan yet for exactly the buildings. That would be addressed when they would submit the development plan, if we were able to get the M1 zoning approved.
Well, that's, if we approve an M1, that's all you have to do. So we would look to put a caveat on that the sizes of the units will be more than 800 square feet.
Yeah, I could address a couple of those issues. The access on going with the first one first, the access to Portage Avenue, that currently the only property that JLM owns and controls is what you see inside that box. Our only point of access to the public road on the north side of the property is that portion of Portage Avenue. I expect that if this property is rezoned to M1, that we will spend a significant amount of time working with your staff and perhaps the adjacent property owner to the west to find a way to combine the ramp that we all drive on now, coming off of Willow Creek Road to get up to Portage Avenue, combining that ramp with something coming from, Lakewood Road, Lakewood extended, basically. So that would be part of the site planning that we're just not there yet. We're trying to keep this kind of a sequential thing, and the zoning is the first thing. Our thinking is that actually the comprehensive plan anticipates that this be zoned in the way that we're asking. So we're trying to do it, we're trying to do what the comprehensive plan anticipates. So the access, I think, will be worked out in a reasonable way during site planning. So that would be number one. Number two, the lots that you see there are all, I think, 90 feet of frontage. Our experience with builders building villa-type homes in Portage at this time, they pretty much take up all of the available space that they can for the footprint. So typically, a side of a villa-type home is more in the range of 1,400 square feet with a two-car garage. And that's what we would be anticipating in this development also. There's no thought of doing little 800 square foot units here.
And I believe that. But we have had a problem where we approved something and they said you approved at 800. Would you be okay with us putting that square footage up?
Yes.
You would be fine with that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Can you explain the question that was asked as to why you chose M1 when the adjacent property is residential?
Well, those are both residential. M1 is residential. it's villa-type homes versus individual single-family type homes, which is R2. The property to the east is R2. The property to the west is highway commercial. We view this as a transitional piece. We think this would be villa-type homes would be a much better application here in terms of being adjacent to the more commercial-type property to the west. So it's a transitional piece of property. And again, it's exactly consistent with what the comprehensive plan anticipates, that the city put together. So actually, we are trying to be consistent with the city's comprehensive plan.
So to reiterate, you're looking at granting access to the property west of the parcel from Portage Ave?
We don't have control over that property, so that's why you see the plan that you see. The only way to combine the existing off-ramp with, let's call it Lakewood Extended, would be through a cooperative effort with at least the city and hopefully with the adjacent property owner, where we could all work together. We are in communication with the Copcos who own the property to the west. They're familiar with what we're doing here today. And we are hoping to work with them and with your staff to find a way to develop a reasonable, safe access road to Portage Avenue. That would be part of the site planning process. And you would have, basically review approval authority over that.
Right, but then you
At
would have,
that point.
you would have highway commercial traffic going through potentially an M1 district.
I wouldn't think of it that way. I think the plan would, the road plan would be such that the access to the commercial property would not really be using Lakewood Extended directly. We don't really have that plan yet. It just makes sense to me that if you see those two roads coming out onto Portage Avenue up there, to find some way to combine those into one intersection. We don't have that plan yet. That's something we would work with your city planner and the adjacent property owner on.
That property would only have access off of the one-way street that connects to Portage Avenue. Currently, though, they're both zoned highway commercial, so if you were to develop that as a highway commercial, the Plan Commission would recommend some sort of way to access that property, more than likely.
Yeah. I think the ramp will stay one way. It will then intersect with a two-way road coming off of Portage Avenue and Lakewood Extended as a two-way road also.
Is that little sliver on the west side, that's not for a home, so that's just,
That's the beginning of our thinking of a good way to
Combining that.
Combine the roads.
okay. So they would not be coming into the subdivision?
With our plan as it exists right now, Lakewood Avenue would be completely separate from the ramp and completely separate. We would basically be turning our back on the highway commercial property.
AJ, to have that question answered, do we have anything in mind for that? Besides a roundabout?
Over the years, there's been conversations of how that ramp could be reconfigured. The challenge has always been getting the zoning right, implementing the sub-area plan, and then working in concert with this owner, the adjacent owner to the west, and the city coming together in partnership. So the conversations have taken place historically. This is the first time that I can recall that the owner of the property has approached the city about the possibility of sorting out the access in this location.
So you feel comfortable that we'll get this worked out?
No. I'm comfortable that it starts a conversation,
Okay.
because there's a third party that's not sitting here, and that's the property owner to the west.
Right.
I was telling Denise that I think getting something worked out with that intersection would probably happen because there's no way of that commercial property being accessed right now, so.
That's not true. In the illustration that you see, Mr. Hannon's provided what appears to be a right-of-way along the south side of the off-ramp that goes from the Willow Creek Road, Chrisman Road bypass to Portage Avenue. Does everybody see that dashed line? You'll notice at the south end of that dashed line takes a hard turn to the west and intersects with what is the right-of-way of Willow Creek Road. That the landowner has access to Willow Creek Road just south of that location.
The start of that ramp?
It's about equal distance between the ramp and the toll road access. That's correct.
Mr. Hannon, what's your primary conversation with Copcos? And where are you at right now with that, talking with them?
They know that we're planning to be here tonight. They know that we're requesting the rezone. They have their property is listed with the Realtor. Our property is also listed with that same Realtor. So we've had those conversations. I can tell you that the Realtor's report to us is that he has had basically zero interest in this property as it's zoned currently. But we do believe that our 19 or 20 acres of property being zoned villa would result in a successful development of that our piece of property.
Okay, thank you. Are there any restrictions with the tracks being very close to that exit? Are there any from the railroad, any requirements for you?
No.
So no amount of footage after the tracks?
The railroad only has control over their actual right-of-way.
That's a question that they're having up here.
Okay.
That's what they're
Very
showing.
good question, yeah.
Has there been any conversation with the railroad to see if there creates a danger zone or congested area in there as far as traffic?
We have had no conversations with the railroad.
But they were notified.
Again, I guess it might have been better if we hadn't brought a plan and just asked for the rezoning. The access to this property is going to be addressed during platting and site plan. The question in my mind is what's the appropriate use for this property? Your comprehensive plan says this is the zoning that should be here, and that's what we're asking for. And we are committing to working with you and with the adjacent property owner to come up with a reasonable access for their property, our property, and the exit ramp from Willow Creek Road as part of that planning process.
I think we're getting hung up on this one issue, when no matter how it's zoned, we're gonna have this issue. So
Right.
we've got a little more traffic involved with the M1, but if it's commercial, we're gonna have traffic issues then. So I think we just need to trust that during the planning part of this, it's gonna get worked out, so.
And if they had to, they could just use Lakewood, which comes in off of Hamstrom. Okay, she's asking the road on the north, where you come off on Portage Ave, and the road that goes east. You're not having that go anywhere, but it's showing at some point future.
Yeah, if you see just to the right of that, or to the east of that, there's another about 8-acre parcel that is zoned R2. And we anticipate that that will get developed with more single-family homes at some time in the future. And there'd be a cul-de-sac that would be extended into that piece of property. And there'd be some single-family homes in there.
Thank you. Any other questions? And you are okay with raising of the square footage from 800 from the M1?
Yes.
Okay. May I have a motion? Did you say your lots are 90 foot wide or 100?
I believe they meet the minimum requirement for M1, which I think is 90. Maybe Kurt or AJ could clarify that. I thought the dimensions on there.
The minimum lot width in M1 is,
It's on the drawing.
the minimum lot width in M1 is 80 feet.
We are showing 90 as the, as the lot width. I think, we've done a lot of work with M1 lots, and the 80-foot, even if 80-foot is, meets the requirements of the city code, 80-foot is not really practical when it comes to building the types of homes that we're talking about putting on here. 90-foot is what we are anticipating,
Okay.
minimum.
And how many homes were you trying to have in there?
The plan shows 48 lots. Whether that's how it ends up is, something that will get worked out. Your approval would not have anything to do with the number. The number will be whatever it is after we've worked out many of these other issues, the access and to Portage Avenue and such. And we haven't really engineered the site yet, so we don't know how big the detention pond needs to be yet. So it could be, 48 is what we're showing, but it could be, I don't think it would be more than that. It could be less than that.
May I have a motion?
Well, I make a motion to approve with the condition regarding size. But Scott, I'm going to defer to you as far as maybe how we want to word that. You're on the right track so far. So what was the magic number on the square footage?
I can't really say off the top of my head, but I would think that 1,250 would be probably a reasonable number, 1,250.
If I could jump in. The way the ordinance is interpreted is the 800 square foot is the dwelling unit. As you know, paired patio homes nowadays tend to have attached 2.5 car garages, okay? So the kind of unit that I would imagine will be proposed here is going to have a minimum square footage of the dwelling unit, and then in addition to 2.5 car garages. So in your motion, I think it's going to be important that you differentiate between, that if you're specifically talking about the square footage of the dwelling unit, that needs to be the motion, and then go from there, because the accessory unit, or the accessory structure, or the accessory use, which would be the garage, is in addition to the 800 square feet. So in most cases, as the petitioner said, if he says 1,250, you would build an 800 square foot dwelling unit and do a 450 square foot 2.5 car garage.
That's not my point. My
Okay.
point is it's the living unit.
Okay.
The garage typically on these units is a minimum of 20 by 20, so 400 square feet. But I thought we were talking about living space here. Okay, That's what we were talking about, too.
But AJ was just clarifying for us, so.
Yeah, it's very helpful, yeah.
All right, so say it again, and this time it's a favorable recommendation. I'll make a motion for a favorable recommendation with the exception being square footage of dwelling unit being minimum 1,250 square feet.
We have a motion. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Monroe, could you call roll?
Yes. Tom Cherry,
Yes.
Gina Geis-Hurst,
Yes.
Sam LaBoy,
Yes.
Charles Thompson,
Yes.
Melissa Weidenbach,
Yes.
Kevin Witherspoon, Denise Little.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Mr. Monroe, could you call our third order of business?
PD 0222, Redwood Apartment Neighborhoods, care of DVG Team, Inc., 1155 Troutwine Road, Crown Point, Indiana, seeking to amend the Sterling Creek Park Final Development Plan to change the R3 land use to an R4 land use for the 4.27 acres plus or minus at the southeast corner of Sterling Creek Road and Augusta Boulevard.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much for hearing us this evening. My name is Jeff Ban. I am a principal with the engineering, surveying, and development consulting firm of DVG Team at 1155 Troutwine Road in Crown Point. I'm here tonight with Kelly McGyver. She's a vice president of acquisitions for Redwood Apartment Neighborhoods. As AJ indicated, we are here tonight to talk about changing a land use in a 4.27 acre parcel that is within the Sterling Creek Park Development Plan, which was approved by your board many years ago, back in 2005. A public notice was published in the Northwest Indiana Times on August 26, 2022, and a copy of that was provided to Kurt for your files and records. The site is a part of the master plan of the Sterling Creek Park Development Plan, and the specific 4.27 acre parcel is sandwiched between an R4 parcel on the west and also an R4 parcel on the east. So you have a good majority of the property on the south side of Sterling Creek, either side of Augusta Boulevard, that is zoned, or not zoned, but set up for R4 land uses. And then there's a kind of a donut hole that is an R3 land use piece right at the southeast corner. All the public infrastructure is currently adjacent to and available to the site to properly serve this as a R4 land use. All the stormwater has been provided years back in the original 2005 approval by your Plan Commission. All the sanitary sewer infrastructure, all the water mains are there, gas, electric, and data communication lines are there to properly service this as an R4 land use. The soil conditions and topography of the site are conducive to support the R4 land use development type. And the proposed project is a low-density, multifamily housing neighborhood consistent with the density that is typical of R3 land uses, and therefore it's in our opinion that the requested R4 land use is compliant with the city's comprehensive master plan. The project consists of 83 single-story residential units on 14.65 acres in total. The project includes property at the southwest corner of Augusta Boulevard and Sterling Creek Drive, and also on the west side of the actual Sterling Creek on the south side of Sterling Creek Road. There are 4 different unit types of varying sizes, and there is also an on-site management and leasing office. Because this project is a low-density multifamily housing neighborhood, and that the site is sandwiched between existing R4 land use parcels, it's our opinion that the property values of adjacent properties will not be impacted, and it also represents, this request also represents responsible development and growth. We have met with the planning department and the fire department over the last few months and have created a master site development plan that addresses all of their initial review concerns. And Kelly MacGyver is here from Redwood to describe in more detail about the project and to tell you a little bit more about Redwood apartment neighborhoods and how they are designed and how they operate. So Kelly?
Hi, I'm Kelly MacGyver with Redwood. I wanted to thank the staff for all the guidance that they've given the team up to this point. It's been very helpful. I also have to apologize. I have terrible allergies, and getting ready for this meeting, I got a little too aggressive with the spray, so I have a nosebleed. So apologies for that. A very dramatic introduction to Portage. So tonight I want to talk to you a little bit about who Redwood is, who our residents are, and then get into the rezoning itself and what we build. So Redwood is a single-story apartment neighborhood developer. We build one thing and one thing only. We build single-story apartment neighborhoods. Each one has 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, a 2-car attached garage on the front, a 2-car driveway in front of that, and a 10-by-10 patio in the back. So if you drove by one of our neighborhoods, you'd probably mistake it for a ranch condo neighborhood. And actually, at the bottom of the slide here, you can start to see a drawing of what the homes look like. There are actually plenty of pictures in the presentation, but this just starts to give you a hint of what they look like. We were founded in 1991. We've been building homes since 2003, and we own everything we've ever built. That's because at the heart of what we do, we are a property management company. We've got about 450 employees, actually about 475 employees now, and about 50 of our employees do what I do. It's the smallest part of our business, which is going out and building new neighborhoods. The rest of the company is devoted to property management. So it really is my job to go out and find more, build more neighborhoods that then we can staff and occupy. Every apartment neighborhood has a dedicated leasing professional and a dedicated maintenance professional. So it's on-site management as well as the behind the scenes personnel. And what that means is that when you're dealing with an apartment owner, you're dealing with one owner, you're dealing with Redwood, and we're here all the time. On the right side of the slide, you can see our core values. These are very important to us. If you come to our office in Cleveland, each one has its own mural on a wall. We get quizzed on them at our company retreat. And the number one core value is do one thing really well. And what we do is build single-story apartment neighborhoods, each one with 2 beds, 2 baths, 2-car attached garage, 2-car driveway in front of that, and a 10-by-10 patio on the back. Across our portfolio, we've got about 14,000 homes leased and occupied. That doesn't include the ones under construction in the pipeline. When I talk about that 14,000 number is because in a couple slides, I'm going to get real granular about who our residents are. And when you're pulling from a sample size of like 50 homes, that means one thing. When you're pulling from 1,000, that means another. And when you're pulling from 14,000 plus, those numbers start to really have some real meat to them. You, of course, will have outliers, but it does get hard to move the averages. And that's why I think it's important to talk about that. But what's really fun about this slide is you can start to see a picture of our homes. So you can see the single story there. All our homes have the upgraded garage doors, so you can see the carriage details, the windows, the decorative louvers and the eave over the garage, the stone accents. There's a dormer on this one. You'll see the concrete in front. All our drives and driveways are concrete because we're going to maintain them in perpetuity, so we build them to last, although it's more expensive up front. So you can start to see what it looks like here. So who are our residents? Across our portfolio, about 70% of our renters are empty nesters. Average age is 51, and most of them come from within a 3-mile radius of the neighborhood that they're in. So that means that they are people who are already in Portage, volunteering at the library, coaching the Little League team, and their kids are grown, and they're tired of mowing their lawn and paying their property taxes, and where do they go? And right now, it is a great market if you want to sell your house and you have some place to go. But if you don't have somewhere to go, then all that windfall goes in one pocket and out the other. So we have been able to provide an age-in-place solution for communities who don't have a place for those empty nesters to go. The other 30% of our residents are generally young professionals. very popular with people with odd sleep hours, so medical personnel, emergency personnel, airport personnel where we're near airports. It's because we build quiet neighborhoods. Our lease addendum is about 2 pages long, a tiny 2-point font of things you can and cannot do. And that is because maintaining the atmosphere that we maintain is very important, and maintaining the asset is very important to us. Because we are empty nesters, we have an average of 1.65 people per home, so very low impact on services. About 7 school-aged children per 100 apartment homes. The average ACT score of the kids of the neighborhoods that we're in is 23, just under 23. So again, you would not expect to see an influx of students because of a great school system. We just tend to have low numbers of school children in our neighborhoods. They actually tend to be the children of the winner or loser of the house battle and the divorce, depending on how you look at that. And so they're frequently already in the schools. We have about 1.5 cars per apartment home, very high service levels. Because we charge very high rent. So if you need your garbage taken out to the curb on garbage day, we'll do that for you. If your Amazon package is too heavy to bring in from your porch, we'll do that for you. Not only do we plow our own roads because they're private, but we also hand shovel all the walks. You can see a walk here from the side over to the garage door so that your friends can come visit you in the winter. So just a very high service level. And again, you can see a picture of the home in the back here. So we are empty nester targeted. So one of the first things I do when we're looking for a place to go, we look at a couple things. We look at demographics and income, retail, things like that. And then we start to look at can we provide a service or can we fill a need for the community where we want to build? And so we always go to the end of the comprehensive plan and look there first. And the Portage comprehensive plan for this area has a couple goals of encouraging a mix of housing styles. This is something new for Portage that currently isn't here. And it looks for opportunities to create more housing for the aging demographic and, of course, improve stormwater. We can look at the pond a little later. We can service that goal. And on the right side, the left side of the slide here is the actual ages of the population here in Portage within a 3-mile radius of our neighborhood, which is where all our residents come from. And I polled everybody 45 up, that empty nester age, and about 41% of the people who live within a 3-mile radius of this neighborhood are empty nesters. So right in that sweet spot, looking for that downsizing housing alternative. So sometimes when you say apartments, people get a little nervous. There can be sometimes a negative emotional reaction to, are these people, are they going to do drugs? Are they going to take care of their property? Just a lot of negative knee-jerk reactions, which I think is interesting because I think in any room of a bunch of people, you could ask how many people here have ever rented an apartment? And I would hazard a guess as to say most people at some point in their life have rented an apartment, right? And most people are probably pretty good people, but we don't rely on that to staff our neighborhoods. We are FHA compliant in all our rental practices, so everyone who wants to live in our neighborhood needs to go through the same background check. That is everyone who's 18. So if you are going to live in the home and you are over 18, you need to appear on the lease and you need to go through the background check. And then that way there is no instance in which mom and dad live in Florida but they're paying for their kids' apartment up here. If you're on the lease, you go through the background check, you live in the neighborhood. So everyone goes through a credit check, they go through a rental history check, so if you've been evicted, we don't rent to you. If you've passed bad checks to your landlord, we don't rent to you. Civil judgment check and criminal background check. So if you have a certain number of DUIs in a certain amount of time, we don't rent to you. If you have a certain amount of felony charges in a much longer period of time, we don't rent to you. And in that way, we are able to control who lives in our neighborhoods much more closely than single-family subdivisions whose HOA covenants don't address who can rent out their home and who can live in their homes if the owner isn't living there. At the bottom of the house, you can see sort of a street shot of the neighborhood. You can see the trees. I think our street trees are every 40 feet. You can see, the concrete drives, another variation on the garage door. So just a couple ways we can vary the homes there. Just to get into a little more about what our homes look like, you can see them here. You can see the stone. Up in the left hand, you can see the backyard with the patio overlooking this detention pond. Again, storm management is very important to us because it's not just a functional thing, it's an aesthetic thing. If you live on a storm pond, it's an amenity, so we can charge more rent. So not only do we want it to work, but we want it to look pretty. So you see the ponds look really nice. You can see there. Another question I get asked is, one time I was giving a presentation in Michigan, and someone said, you only show the pretty pictures, where are the bad pictures? And I said, well, I don't feel like I have any bad pictures, but feel free to take some and send them if you would like. But I think what they were getting at is it looks really nice now, but what does it look like later? So this is actually one of our oldest neighborhoods. It's the second one we ever built back in 2006. Our assistant executive chairman of the board actually built and entitled this back when he was a youngin' at Redwood. So the top two slides are what the exterior of the home look like now. In 2017, the leasing professional, she just submitted the home of her own volition to an apartments association for awards, and you can see that it won a whole slew of exterior awards over a decade after it was built for exterior appearance. And you can see in that slide there on the top two pictures, you can see how the landscaping is lush. I mean, you can see how we take care here. There's none of the green algae on the siding. There's no, the color is true on the siding. There's no spalling on the concrete. The roofing looks even and true. So we really do take a lot of care there. But those are things that we're required to do for our banks. We're all privately funded. We have capital reserve funds. I think last year, in addition to our capital reserve fund, we spent an average of $1,000 per apartment home on optional upgrades. That's because we want to charge top rents. We are 98% leased, and we want to stay that way, so we continually reinvest. And you can see that reinvestment in the bottom slides. So the infrastructure stuff is the stuff that the bank cares about, right? That capital stuff. But the bottom is more of the marketing and how you stay current in the market. So we do these optional upgrades at apartment turns. So you can see in the bottom left photo where there was carpet, and then in the bottom right where we switched that out for plank flooring at the apartment turn. So these are the things that we do to keep our apartments current and with the market. And this apartment neighborhood is currently getting between $1,800 and just under $2,800 a month in a Western Cleveland suburb, which is a really great rent for a new apartment neighborhood, let alone one that is as older as this one. And it's really important to us, again, because we're one owner, we own everything we've ever built, we are all privately funded, and we are actually structured around long-term management with permanent loans with our lenders. So again, that upkeep and asset management is really important to us from that perspective, as well as good customer service. So these are some of the interior stuff. This is, I'm sure, less important to you as a planning commission, but it's always nice to see what it looks like inside. Lots of air, plank flooring, granite, stainless appliances, pendant lighting, all the things you'd expect to see when you're charging the higher rents. What's really cool about this slide, I think, though, is the picture over to the right, because you can look out the bedroom window and see what it looks like if you live in a Redwood neighborhood. And you can see it just looks like this really attractive, warm streetscape, not like what you would think of when you think of apartments. Some of our floor plans, our smallest floor plan is just under 1,300 square feet. You can see the attached garage there. And then our largest floor, this is the Willowwood. It's not our largest. Our largest has a sunroom on the end. This is the Willowwood. It's just under 1,400 square feet. So every month, we get our Remarkable Redwood from our marketing company, where they go through online and they pull the online reviews, and then you can see where you're doing well and where you need to work on things. And this one really struck me, the quote at the bottom. I never knew how important it could be to have your own private entrance and garage. With my wife being a post-heart transplant recipient and no immunity, it just made a world of difference in keeping her safe. So that private entry, we're all ADA compliant on the inside, zero entry from the garage into the room, into the home, light switches at wheelchair height, wheelchair turn radii, just able to offer that extra value add for people. And these are just some interior photos. I won't spend too much time on them, just to show you what it looks like. Again, the granite, the plank, pendant lighting, lots of light and air, the backyard there, little bedroom, the double vanities in some of our homes, lots of storage in the garage and the pantry and the closets there. All right, so now I just want to talk a little bit about what we're actually asking for now that I've introduced Redwood to you. This is a site location, so you can see 6 up to the north and Willow Creek over to the west. Augusta bisects our site off of Sterling Creek. The parcel that we're looking at is just here. It's got here's the Planet Fitness up here, and the Walmart and the little Sears store. And then here's the villas, and then Rittenhouse, the senior facility right here. Here's the pond we were talking about too. So currently you can see this section here that we're looking at is R4, this is R3. The future land use map actually shows the entire area as mixed-use residential, so our use fits right into the future land use map as well as satisfying the comprehensive plan goals. This is a closer up look at that Sterling Creek Park PUD zoning. So Jeff had alluded to this earlier. You can see this parcel here is R4, which is part of what we would like to build. Then this parcel with the detention pond is R4. This section here is the R3 that we'd like to change to R4, and then it's R4 right on the other side. So it's we're kind of already surrounded there by R4. This little slice underneath here is where the villas are, those attached single-family homes are the dupes. We actually look a lot like them. They don't have the stone accents, and I don't know if they all have double garages. I don't have the photo with me, but we're very compatible aesthetically with them. And you can see at the R4, just the R4 uses here allow the multifamily and all the R3 uses. What I think was interesting with the R3 use is that it includes townhomes. We actually built to the the residential building code standard for townhomes. So the actual way we build, it's stick construction. It actually is compatible with townhomes, although in the Portage zoning code, our use would not be considered a townhome. And that is it. If you have any questions, I would love to answer them, and Jeff can answer any of the more technical questions involving engineering.
Well, first, we're going to open the public hearing. Is there anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner?
Do I have to sign in again for the other one?
Yes,
Okay, do that.
under Sterling Creek, or
Redwood
Redwood Apartment,
Apartments.
Redwood Apartment neighborhoods.
My name is Austin Bonta. Good to see you guys again. Again, similar thing here right now. I have nothing bad to say about the petitioner. If my memory serves me correctly, they were here back in 2019 attempting to get the land over by the Presbyterian Church and the Menards, that big field between, rezoned for multifamily to be able to build, I think, almost this exact same thing. That received a favorable recommendation from the Plan Commission at the time, but was, if my memory serves correct, unanimously rejected by the City Council. The statement was it is too dense, too many people coming in and out, and just not the best interests of the city. I'm here today to agree with that same opinion. I understand that this is further south. It's still Augusta Boulevard because the original design would have taken Augusta all the way through to connect to Lute and 6. That in itself is a pretty good idea, but again, it's nothing to do with the petitioners. I'm sure that they've got a good plan here, but at this time in Portage's history, we need to be moving against high density and moving towards lower density wherever we can. When I look up there and I see the R3, it looks to me like that's designed primarily to serve as a way to have the active adult senior care communities. I could be wrong, but again, in this circumstance, it's just a very high density, and I think that we need to be pumping the brakes on that as a city. I'd also add, again, despite the best intentions of, I think, this company, there could come a day where they sell it, and in particular, if it's zoned R4, I'm not sure if that could be sold individually, so this could lead to multiple different landlords. Not trying to be doom and gloom like down the road, but we do got to be mindful that a good intention company right now, that can change over time. Not necessarily their company, but just the ownership of the land and where it goes. So I urge this Plan Commission to really just be mindful of the need to pump the brakes on going higher density on any property that we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner? If not, I close the public hearing and open to questions from the commission.
How many units are usually paired in a strip?
I'm sorry, could you ask that again?
How many units are usually connected in one building?
Oh, between 4 to 6 generally. 6 is usually our sweet spot, but usually between 4 to 6.
Do you have a general overall length that you target for those?
Well, our average, the forest wood, which is sort of our bread and butter unit, it's usually about 65% of the neighborhood. That's 28 feet. So that would be 168 feet long if we had a 6-unit, a 6-home building.
With such a large connection, a link of buildings, is there any thought about sprinkler systems for fire protection, being that there's so many homes that could possibly flare up and cause a catastrophe there?
Yeah, so the safety of our residents is really important to us. Where we are required to sprinkle, we sprinkle. I know there's a 150-foot hose length we have to accommodate. Sometimes we can also accommodate that with firewalls. It's really a question of what the direction that we get from the building department. But however we are required to keep our residents safe in a municipality, we will do that.
And I apologize, I didn't understand.
Yeah.
You said something about sprinkling if it's,
Yeah, so not all municipalities require fire sprinkling. So where we are required to sprinkle, we will sprinkle them. And then sometimes in lieu of sprinkling, a municipality will prefer that you do a certain firewall between a certain number of homes. It all depends on what the building department and fire department in that municipality require, and we'll do what we're required to do.
And we've actually had some conversations with Chris in the fire department about this already, and his interpretation of the state fire code and how it applies to the Portage building code. Once we get our rezoning, we'll have more discussion about the details on how we do that. But the fire department's aware of it, and we're engaged with them right now and having those discussions.
Dina, you have a comment on that?
Well, I know we'll follow whatever codes in regards to the state would require, fire code, like Chris Kidder had mentioned, and also for the building code. So it'd be the Indiana State Building Code that we would follow for those, since they would be considered commercial properties.
Does Portage have a similar development at all?
What's the question?
Sorry.
Do we have apartments in the city?
No, like a strip of this many apartments connected on one level.
I think we don't need to look any further than the promenade next to Founders Square. And it's 3 stories. Right? Those are really long buildings. They're built of wood. They're compliant to the Indiana Building Code, and they're 3 stories tall.
Okay.
And I think the other difference would be those are on central hallways with the units on both sides, where this is a single loaded 1-story attached residential unit.
Correct.
Yes,
Yeah.
and there's access from both sides. There's a front entrance through, well, there are actually 2 entrances through the front, through the garage and the front entrance, and there's a back entrance through the patio as well as first floor windows. So there's a lot of access to the homes as well.
AJ, do you happen to know the percentage of rental property in Portage? Do we need to be mindful of that once we get to a certain percentage?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't have a percentage I would be able to throw out there. There's this much of this, there's that much of this. It's easy to put together. This development is approved for this land use. I think the only reason we're here today is because a previous planning director chose to take this idea of moving zoning lines to a plan commission in the past. I think it's important to consider what the plan commission did previously. What is adjacent to this is a multi-story, wood-framed assisted living facility with paired patio homes bordering it on the east, the east side of the property and on the south side of the property. And what's left is this very small remnant. I can imagine that the past plan commission had considered that they were leaving this little sliver of R3, and might understand that somebody wouldn't be comfortable putting single-family homes next to an assisted living facility and/or directly adjacent to paired patio homes to the south, or R4, which is the old multifamily on the other side of Augusta Boulevard. I'm going to guess the reason why that happened is because this was all R3, and there was probably a recognition that there was already R3 or single-family development on the north side of Sterling Creek Road. But honestly, we're here because a past decision put some R4 on the other side of Augusta Boulevard. And this developer's trying to sell real estate. They are trying to contribute to the tax base, and they're finding themselves in a situation where they have a 4-acre parcel of property that's difficult to develop. And I think that's why this petitioner's here today. So it's always important to be mindful of all the past decisions that have been made. But I think in a lot of this is we're reacting to what people are saying, as opposed to recognizing what development we have throughout the city of Portage, and the fact that this is an approved development that probably wouldn't be here if a past decision hadn't been made in a different direction.
And to add to that, if you wouldn't mind, comment was made about density. This is extremely low density. If you're looking at a single-family neighborhood, you could be up to 3 units per acre. We're not twice that. And if you go to some of your apartment neighborhoods that you have here in the city, you're probably in the 10 to 15 to maybe even 20 units per acre. This project is 5.6 units per acre. If those villas wanted to continue to be built on this R3 parcel of 4.27 acres, you could get more than 5.66, and we wouldn't be before you. What we're asking for is a rental house, which you don't see that in much of Northwest Indiana. You see very typical multi-story apartments with no garages. You're looking for, as Kelly indicated, a lot of senior citizens that are looking to get rid of their homes because it's becoming more of a maintenance issue for their life. And we're giving them a single-family environment with a 2-car indoor garage, with a 2-car outdoor driveway for family and visitors. You don't see this anywhere in Northwest Indiana. And I think this is something that is compliant, as Kelly's presentation showed. Your comprehensive plan looks for new, innovative housing for an aging population. And that's what exactly this does. And I ask you to really consider that very carefully.
One of the questions up here was, do you furnish your homes?
No, people bring their apartments in, but it's not unusual for us. There are several places where we like to work with local businesses because we're going to become part of the neighborhood. So we'll work with like local storage companies, local interior designers, places like that. So people can, if you need help with anything like that, we can help pair you with someone in the neighborhood, the community that can do that.
On your presentation, though, too, appliances were included, correct? Or-
Yes, the refrigerator and the stove and the microwave, I think, is in there too.
Thank you.
Any other questions? May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the petitioner's request.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I will second.
We have a second. Mr. Monroe, could you call roll?
Tom Cherry,
Yes.
Gina Geis-Hurst,
Yes.
Sam LaBoy,
Yes.
Charles Thompson,
Yes.
Melissa Weidenbach,
No.
Kevin Witherspoon, Denise Little.
Yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
If I could make just a comment about this young man that's going to go into a new phase of his life. I've been in front of you and with Kurt for many years, and I have to tell you, and I say this with all of my heart and with all sincerity, Kurt, you're one of my favorite people to work with. I do a lot of work in all of Northwest Indiana and the south suburbs of Chicago, and Kurt is always a joy to talk to, and he's so helpful, and he will be missed. His replacement will have big shoes to fill, but I know she can do that. So, but Kurt, thank you very much for your friendship and your professional way of dealing with us all the time.
Well said, thank you.
Leave this, yes.
We now have an item for new business.
Yes, this is M0822, Realty Link LLC, 201 River Place, Suite 400, Greenville, South Carolina, requesting sketch plan review and comments from the Plan Commission for a proposed plan development for 104 plus or minus acres south and east of the corner of US Highway 6 and Airport Road.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. Back again, it was last year in January, so I've kept this presentation a little bit brief to not repeat everything that we've already gone through, although I see there's a couple new faces here. So we're here today to present to you an updated site plan based on our conversations in the past. And just kind of, we took a lot of time, worked with staff, went back, it took us a while to kind of figure out how we could rework the site plan here to accommodate basically everything that we heard in Plan Commission, staff's concerns, and appreciate working with AJ and Kurt here closely on trying to come up with a solution that can work for us, can work for the city, and really brings some excitement and kind of a medium density type development here while accomplishing a lot of goals from the comp plan. So our site is outlined here as we have the 84 acres on the corner east of Coles that the Hatala family owns. And then we also have a contiguous 20 acres, which is 2 parcels owned by Victory Christian Church. So what we did here on the site plan, just to kind of give you a little perspective on where the design comes from. The comp plan calls for 3 interior corridor roads being extended through the property, which really makes this site very challenging to figure out how to lay it out and how to get enough homes on it to make it work, because those roads obviously require a lot more infrastructure than your typical city road would. So as you can see, running behind the commercial, we have Veterans Avenue extended from in front of Kohl's. Running behind the commercial, We have Pan Am Boulevard running south, terminating into Sterling Creek running east and west. All those three items are addressed in the comp plan as desirable connectivity here for the community. So we started with that as kind of our backbone. Along the west side of the property in the north, we obviously have commercial. And so we needed to create kind of a step-down effect of density. So what we did here is we redesigned the townhomes. These are rear-load townhomes, detached garages. One thing we took to heart was having a backyard and having somewhere where you can sit down. So in between the garage and the back of these townhomes, everybody will have a small private backyard. And then we step it down a little bit further. The orange lots are 50-foot wide lots. There's not a lot of them, but it provides kind of a step down as far as cost of home as well. So we can start in the townhomes, offer a couple of the 50-foot single families, and then step the density down a little bit further. In the remaining single-family residential is 70-foot lots. With the design, so going into the 5 items here for rezoning the property. So we're looking to take this from an R1 to a PD R1. This is in line with the comp plan. The comp plan calls for less than 25% commercial, mixed use across the middle, with low to medium density residential to the rear. And all 3 of those items are accomplished here. Current conditions, character of the structures and uses in each district or of the existing land. This is obviously all agriculture. It's all raw land that's never been built. So there's nothing to address there. Most desirable use for which the land in each district is adapted. Again, here we're hitting the desires of the comp plan of less than 25% commercial. We're addressing the mixed use component through the center of the property and getting to a lower density to the rear of the property to then move into R1 to the south, to the east, and to the southwest of the property. Conservation of property values throughout the district. There's a lot of connectivity here, which is also called for in the comp plan. So you can see we've added a lot of green space. We've moved the ponds around throughout the property to kind of create, I guess, beautify the overall development. And walking trails you can see in the green space that we would add here. So there's a lot of pedestrian-friendly connectivity. Obviously, those are very desirable things, which would increase property values in and around this area. And last but not least is responsible development and growth. So on here we've got kind of a max number. So you can see if you're looking at the site plan, of the 50-foot wide lots, which are the orange lots across the middle, we have no more than 45 lots there. The 70-foot wide lots, we're up to about 130 lots roughly. And then of the townhomes, plus or minus 200, depending on how the final engineering and layout would work here. So all in, we're at 375 lots, kind of on the high side. So just to give you a little bit of perspective of where we were and where we are. So when we were here in January, we were at 505 units in total. So that was still, we at that time obviously felt that was within the comp plan, and it was at 4.85 units per acre. We've reduced it here significantly to up to 375 units, which puts us at 3.6 units per acre. And so I'm here to answer any questions, and my hope today is that you can appreciate a lot of effort on our part, as well as working with AJ and Kurt here to come up with a solution that can hopefully work for everybody to create an exciting development for Portage.
Thank you. I will open up to questions from the commission. I have a lot of questions. It's hard with just a colored rendering. Where have you built a similar project like this in Indiana?
We have not built any in Indiana. We've built several, so we're based out of the Carolinas, and we have built several of these projects in the Carolinas, but ourselves have not built here, but have based a lot of our building designs off of buildings locally.
What will your price point be in square footage for each of your areas?
You know, that's a really, really tough question to answer right now with the moving commodities prices. Our goal is to bring it in. The beauty of the townhome is we can bring them in at a low price and we can bring them in at a medium price depending on how much we dress them up and dress them down, right? As far as right now, commodities prices are obviously still through the roof. Hopefully, a year from now when we break ground, they'll come down and we can put maybe some additional improvements on the inside. It's really hard for me to tell you that sitting here right now, given that we're 12 months out from construction, what the price point looks like.
What about square footage?
Square footages of the townhomes would range from 950 to 1,500 square feet, in that range. And the townhomes have not been formally laid out. The floor plans have not been laid out. That would be something that we'd do once we get further into site plan.
And what about the R4 and the single family?
Again, I think that's something that we would address in the PD agreement.
No, I'm talking about your square footage.
Oh, you know, we would definitely meet the code for those in hitting the minimum square footages of the code.
The code for R4 is 960 square feet.
Yeah, so we're certainly going to be over that for a single-family home.
So you would have no problem with us doing like we did with the first petitioner, saying that those homes would be in the 1250 range for the living structure?
Yeah, I think that would be fair.
I have a question. My concern, and we brought this up last time, was regarding, have you approached the fire department? And in addition to, I'm sure you guys remember when we discussed let's see, how many acres? There was 233 units that were discussed being added on the south side of 700, and the different concerns we approached the department heads as to how our city how they feel handling it. That was 233 units. Now, tonight, we're talking about 375 units.
And what the departments had said, we'll give you a copy of this, but that the city would have a very difficult time servicing this type of density.
As far as, from what standpoint?
We'll give you a copy of what's going around.
Okay. From a fire standpoint or from a?
Fire, police, and sanitary sewer.
Okay. To date, we've met with the fire previously on the previous site plan. And I think really the only concern at all is just making sure that he's got access around those buildings, which is what we've tried to provide here.
Can staff get a copy of that for the record, please?
What we're looking at is not making R4 the standard for the city of Portage. And the higher density.
if I can speak to that, I think that's a mistake here. The reason being is you have a commercial development, and to build single-family homes that back up to Cole's parking dock is just not going to work. It's very natural in the planning realm to have a step-down density out of your commercial. Which is why, understanding the stance on R4, why we have it in the middle up against the townhomes, and we don't have a lot of it. I think there's 38 or 39 lots there total. So there's not very many of those lots, but it gives you that step-down density. I mean, this is a very big site, so scaling it, you need to provide kind of a step down from higher density use to medium to a low to step away from your high use users along US 6, Highway 6.
What I have here is rezoning to a planned development district. And there is no R4 in going to a PUD in the paper that we have here out of our planning books. Also for the commercial, in a PDR1, commercial is 15%, not 10%.
Is it possible to get a copy of what's being referenced? Could I have one? Yeah. Thanks.
In fact, it's in this package.
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering if we're referencing something that's not a staff report or a report of the developer. I'd like to have access to it.
And the biggest concern, the R4 is a concern, but the townhouses are 51% of the property. R3 is 35, and R4 is 14%.
Which is, I guess it's hard from my standpoint. I'm looking at the comp plan. We're significantly under what the comp plan calls for. And I'm trying to design something that stepped the density back, like I said, from 505 to 375 units and still achieve, as the comp plan calls for, a mixed use. I guess.
But we're not zoned to mixed use. You're asking for
right.
to go different. So,
Right, so-
that's where we have to be stewards for the city,
Right.
To watch what we are doing. And with there being 15% commercial, the original zoning was for 25% commercial.
Less than 25%, yes.
Okay, I
So
remember it as 25.
We still fall, obviously, with less than 25%.
The city having a hard time with garbage, maintaining things. The police, if you look at the reports that we gave you, with the amount of people that you would have moving in, the 6 officers they have on a shift is not enough. And like Austin said, commercial brings in more money than residential.
Well, I think,
So if I could, we're here for sketch plan review tonight. I don't think it's meant to be adversarial. I believe that the petitioner's done a good job of making his case, presenting what he sees as to how the market and how this area should be developed. I think that if the Plan Commission wants to advise as to whether you're in favor or not in favor of this PD, I think that we should try to keep it at that level. Based on the notes I have so far, at least I've heard from one Plan Commission member and maybe more that the Plan Commission's not in favor of higher density single-family development or multifamily residential development. And I think if that's the review of the Plan Commission, the applicant or petitioner will take that and decide how to proceed accordingly. But he's not here to have, I think, a philosophical debate about, and there's no approval tonight. This is literally just comment. So if the comment of the Plan Commission, the City of Portage is, we don't want this, we don't want that, he'll duly take those notes and leave. But I don't think we're here. he's made his case in terms of his position. And if we're just not there, let's just give the gentleman that advice. He can go to another community and move on if that's where we're going. I guess the only comment I'm going to make, and I told Scott I wasn't going to get into this, this is the warning that was given. The warning that was given when we have land in the city of Portage and then you proceed to annex property in the city of Portage. This was the warning. How is it that this guy, the landowner who's been in the city forever, pretty much, is being treated the same way as somebody who petitioned annexation and then was annexed into the city? Do you see how, but real quick, do you see how that is a very dangerous path to go down? If we're trying to make the same points that we were trying to make in an annexation petition with somebody who's been in the city since 1990-something.
Right.
It's a slippery slope. Chief Candiano always had a responsibility to provide service to this property. It's in the city of Portage.
I understand that, but we're looking at the difference in density, and that's the question.
Your comp plan, which was guidance to this gentleman, talks about 25% commercial in a development. He's making the case that he's below some of those thresholds, maybe not in all cases, but in some cases they are. And I just wanted to stop the back and forth because the gentleman made a comment.
I agree.
We responded, and I think we should move on in a civil manner.
I guess our response is we would like less density.
Could you give me an idea of what you're looking for?
We didn't come prepared to do that.
Is that something you could get back to me in the next few days? I need some sort of guidance so that I can see if I can. The trouble here too that I want to bring up to everyone on the Plan Commission, the expectations set by the comp plan of bringing the 3 roads through this property, you're not going to see R1 residential on this property. You won't. I can promise you that. I know what it costs to put those roads in, and it's not going to ever happen. So the decision that I share this with you because I want you to give it some thought is I've scaled it back as far as you can scale it back pretty much and still try to achieve all of the goals, detaching the garages, and still get this thing to work. And we are in a extremely hot residential environment today. So I just want to share that with you.
I'm concerned with as many townhomes as I'm seeing.
From a market standpoint or from a management standpoint?
Just over flooding this area.
I mean,
It just,
that's similar to the group that presented before me. This is the type of home that a lot of your empty nesters are looking for, is to look for something where it can be part of an association where they're not mowing, they're not taking care of the bushes. They're able to take off in the wintertime, not worry about the house. And so the demand for this type of product is extremely high because if you watch the population growth, the bubble of boomers is at a point where they're ready to let the house go. And this is the exact type of product that they're looking for.
And if I could, we focused a lot because the alarm bells are sounded by multifamily, higher density. I mean, if we're going to have then that just completely open as an honest conversation, I'm really surprised that no one's talked about the commercial. No, I'm surprised that we're advocating for commercial, considering the development across the street that was built in 2005 is half full. The development directly to the west has received approval for a car wash a strip center that's half full and no development next to it. And so if we're going to be honest about these conversations, let's be 100% honest and not just be sounding or responding to the bells warned by people that come in previous petitions on public comment about people coming to Portage. I mean, if we have a universal problem with development, then let's have a universal problem with it. But this community only thrives when we have people living here. I'm really not sure why it's a little surprising to me that the entire focus of this has been that and not the stripping out commercially of the highway when we have so many vacant opportunities, whether in built development or unbuilt development. And then in the next breath and next week, we'll opine over, well, there's not enough commercial downtown. Let's be 100% on this, right? So just a thought, because I'm not hearing it all, not hearing it all the way brought through to conclusion, some of these comments.
Well, I think it would help if we had square footage, if we knew what you were going to be building. I mean, is the R4 going to be all the same home?
No.
Okay,
No,
see,
so there's
that
several
that
different
would-
designs, which I did share those designs last time. I should have brought them this time, coming back. But it's going to be similar designs to what we've shared with you. Multiple different facades. They're not all going to look the same. And as far as square footages go, as we draft the PD document out of this meeting, those are items that would get addressed with that.
Okay, but that's something that we would want before you came back with a finished product.
Sure. We can do that.
RJ, were there any staff recommendations on the commercial exposure there?
The staff, his words with Realty Link, is the petitioner mentioned, looking at the comprehensive plan, looking at the thoroughfare plan, looking at the requirements that it sets forth. It tends to lend itself to, could we go back to the other slide?
Yep.
It tends to create a situation where if we follow it, this is the development pattern that it espouses. The thoroughfare plan calls for the eastern extension of Veterans Avenue. It calls for the southern extension of, is that Pan Am?
Yeah.
And it calls for the eastern continuation of Sterling Creek Park. As the petitioner said, those three requirements of the thoroughfare plan that's outlined in the comprehensive plan, it really begins to kind of create the building blocks of the development. In terms of the commercial, it's a question of weighing one versus the other, Commissioner Cherry, in terms of, the staff is trying to look at the comprehensive plan and suggest to the developer, this is what you need to do. And this is the natural result of what is articulated in that part of the document. And I think if you translate that out to what the zoning ordinance talks about, the 25% commercial with the balance of it being residential, per the future land use plan, that is exactly what this does. Because if you look at the comp plan's future land use plan and were to draw a line east to west across the area just south of the Kohl's department store, it's pretty safe to say that the commercial is 25% of that depth. You see what I'm saying? So the comp plan, the future land use plan starts to push in the petitioner in a direction, and considering where we've been on this and where we are, the guidance that's been given to the petitioner by the comp plan is pretty consistent with that. If it's the Plan Commission's feelings that the comprehensive plan isn't providing the kind of guidance that you wish it would, maybe that should be the conversation, and which is fair, which is absolutely fair. And if that's the case, then I think it's important to put the petitioner on notice, and then we need to get to work as a community as to talk about what to do. But I think it's fair to say that over the past year working with this petitioner, that we've come a long way in the plan, the development. And if it's not good enough, that's okay. We just need to say that. And this gentleman will move on and take his capital and his equity to another community. And then I would encourage us as Portage to then spend that time and that first lost opportunity doing right by the Hatalas and doing right by the folks at Victory Christian, so that those landowners who have been in this city a long time know what kind of development this city is going to support.
So there's no motion or anything? We're just...
No, ma'am, we're just here for
Complete.
comment.
Okay.
Is that it?
That's it.
Next step is, do we proceed? Or
So I think we're only here for comment. I think the ball's back in your court in terms of, based on what you've heard, do you want to continue the expense knowing that you kind of got the feeling you got?
Okay. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there any old business?
We have another petition on the agenda. And I can read that if you'd like me to.
Absolutely.
This is S0422, Upscale Construction, Inc., 3111 Anderson Street, Portage, Indiana, seeking secondary plat approval for Deer Creek Estates subdivision, 17.69 acres, located southeast of Anderson Street and north of the Prairie Duneland Trail. Subdivision includes 44 lots and 2 outlots. Mr. Ketwig.
Good evening.
Hi, Dan Ketwig, owner of Upscale Construction and the developer of Deer Creek Estates. Here to see about getting my second plot taken care of. Been working with Kurt and them, so we have the engineering firm that pretty much okayed it and got all of our stuff taken care of with them. We're just looking to get it in because of the circumstances with NIPSCOs and everybody.
Do you want to explain about this, and then you can start putting in some foundations?
Mm-hmm.
You want to explain that part?
Sure. So what we're here to do is get this approved so we can get our bonding and stuff so we can start putting in foundations before this winter. NIPSCO even is months behind. They will not come out and do no work to your properties right now until you have foundations. You have to supply and demand and need. It could push us back a whole nother year as of next year if we don't get this stuff done. So we're looking forward to try to get this taken care of. We already have our ponds in, our drainage systems in order. You guys' engineering firm has been updated with everything. I think the only last thing that they're looking at is a lift station that isn't so much involved right now into that because we're not occupying any homes. You know, we're just looking to get foundations and stuff going.
Any questions? AJ, you have something?
I do.
Okay.
To continue on with what Mr. Catwig had said, he and his project team have been working with Christopher Burke engineers, consultants to the field forces. They have sorted out the matters regarding the lift station, and there's a few minor matters that are unresolved. However, it is their recommendation that those are minor in nature and that they would be outside the realm of secondary plat approval. So with that said, knowing that those are some of the few last outstanding items that remain, my understanding, Kurt, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that Christopher Burke, his engineers to the sanitary and stormwater boards, have signed off on this and that they're okay with recommending secondary plat approval by the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Any questions? May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve secondary platter.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Could you call roll?
I can. Tom Cherry,
Yes.
Gina Geist-Hurst,
Yes.
Sam LaBoy,
Yes.
Charles Thompson,
Yes.
Melissa Weidenbach,
Yes.
an enthusiastic second, Kevin Witherspoon, Denise Little.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Congratulations, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you guys very much. It's been a road, but we're getting down it now. We're down to the very back. Kurt, it's been wonderful working with you all these years. You've really helped us out through many from when I first started building here, so I'm going to miss you a lot. But I've been with her for many years, too, and she has taken wonderful care of me. So I look forward to her finishing off my project. That's what it seems, so I appreciate everything. Thank you all.
Sorry we didn't have anything for the TVs. We're not as hesitating as everyone else.
Sorry, it wasn't quite so spectacular.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes. Motion to
Second.
adjourn.
All those in favor, stand up.